Anger is one of the few emotions that can feel powerful in the moment and yet leave us weaker than before. It burns hot, demands action, and promises justice. But what it really gives is regret, broken trust, and a restless mind. Think about the last time you lost control. Did anger actually solve the problem, or did it just create new ones? The truth is, anger is not strength. It's a chain that ties you to the worst in yourself. But here's the question. What if you could cut that chain forever? What if there was a way to live without being ruled by anger, not by suppressing it, not by pretending it isn't there, but by understanding it so deeply that it loses its grip on you? The Stoics believed this was possible, and their wisdom still shows us how today. Anger is often mistaken for something natural and unstoppable, as if it were a storm that sweeps over us with no warning. But the Stoics looked deeper. They taught that anger is not simply a burst of emotion, it is a judgment we make about what has happened to us. When someone cuts us off in traffic, we do not just feel a surge of heat for no reason. We decide in that instant that we have been wronged, that something unfair has happened, and that retaliation is justified. The emotion follows the judgment. Seneca, who wrote an entire book on anger, called it a brief madness. He observed that in those moments of rage, people act as if reason has been abandoned entirely. Voices rise, hands shake, and sometimes violence follows. And yet, when the storm passes, clarity returns, and regret often sits heavily on the chest. What seemed justified in anger now appears foolish. This is the strange nature of anger. It convinces us that it makes us powerful, when in reality it exposes our weakness. To be ruled by anger is to hand control of our mind to the outside world. Anyone with a word or an insult can command us if we allow anger to dictate our response. The Stoics saw true strength not in striking back, but in standing firm, unshaken. To understand anger, then, is the first step in disarming it. By naming it clearly, by seeing it as madness rather than power, we can begin to separate ourselves from its control. Why do we get angry in the first place? The Stoics would say it comes down to a clash between our expectations and the reality we face. We expect people to treat us fairly, to respect our time, to keep their word. When they fail, our mind shouts, "This should not have happened." That judgment is the spark. The emotion is the fire that follows. Think about how often anger arises from small disappointments. You expect the traffic to move smoothly, but it stalls for an hour. You expect a friend to show up on time, but they cancel at the last minute. You expect a stranger to be polite, but instead they insult you. Each moment carries the same hidden belief. The world must match my expectations. When it doesn't, we flare up. Ego adds fuel to this fire. When someone challenges us, mocks us, or ignores us, pride whispers that our value has been attacked and we must defend it. But here is the problem. Our worth cannot be diminished by another person's words or actions. Their behavior reveals more about them than it does about us. And yet, when we tie our identity to how others treat us, anger comes easily. The Stoics remind us that most people act out of ignorance rather than malice. They do what they think is best, even if it harms us. Anger, then, comes not from their actions, but from our belief that they should know better, do better, be better. The root of anger lies not in the world itself, but in the stories we tell ourselves about what the world owes us. Anger always feels justified in the moment, but when we step back, its cost is impossible to ignore. It clouds our judgment, making us act in ways we later regret. It wounds relationships sometimes beyond repair, as harsh words cannot be unsaid and reckless actions cannot be undone. Even the body suffers. Our pulse quickens, our breathing shortens, our chest tightens. Doctors today confirm what the Stoics knew centuries ago. Anger poisons us long after the moment has passed. history offers countless examples of leaders destroyed by anger. Alexander the Great, in a fit of rage, killed his closest friend Cletus with his own spear. The act haunted him for the rest of his life. One moment of fury cost him peace that even all his conquests could not restore. Seneca warned that anger is more dangerous than the wounds we receive because it drives us to wound ourselves further. Even in ordinary life, the pattern is clear. A parent lashes out at a child and leaves behind fear instead of guidance. A driver loses their temper on the road and turns a minor inconvenience into a dangerous confrontation. A friend, offended by a careless remark, ends a bond that took years to build. In every case, the damage spreads further than the original offense. The Stoics insisted that no insult or injury done to us is as harmful as what anger makes us do to ourselves. When we surrender to rage, we hand over our reason, our dignity, and our freedom. What we think is strength is actually slavery to impulse. To see the cost of anger clearly is to begin desiring freedom from it. If anger begins with judgment, then the way to master it is to change what we consider within our control. This was the foundation of Epictetus's teaching. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. We cannot command the weather, other people's choices, or the flow of fortune. We can only command our own thoughts and actions. When we forget this, anger finds its way in. We rage at the storm as if our fury could calm it. We grow bitter when someone speaks rudely, as though our resentment could reshape their character. The Stoics remind us that this is wasted effort. To fight against what is outside our control is to chain ourselves to constant frustration. But when we shift our focus inward, everything changes. If an insult comes, we can choose whether to take it personally. If fortune turns against us, we can decide whether to despair or adapt. Our response belongs fully to us, untouched by the world outside. This is where our power lies. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that the universe is vast and indifferent, and that the actions of others are merely the unfolding of their own nature. Why should we let their nature dictate our peace of mind? To do so is to hand over the only thing we truly possess, our ability to choose. Anger loses its grip when we see clearly what is ours to control, the behavior of others, not ours. The turning of fate, not ours, but the calmness of our own mind, that is ours completely, and once we claim it, no one can take it from us. Few things ignite anger as quickly as an insult. Words can feel like daggers, sharp enough to wound our pride and dignity. But the Stoics taught that insults only have the power we give them. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, when someone speaks ill of you, they reveal their own character, not yours. An insult is a mirror held up to the insulter, not to the one being insulted. Imagine a passerby yelling that the sky is green. Would you be offended? Of course not. You would simply recognize the statement as false. In the same way, when someone mocks you or questions your worth, why should their words carry more weight than nonsense? The truth of who you are is not contained in another person's outburst. Seneca advised treating insults as empty sounds, no different from the barking of a dog or the clashing of pots in the marketplace. Yet to be stung by them is to forget that our value rests in virtue, not in the fleeting opinions of others. A Stoic measures himself by his actions, his integrity, his reason. No insult can touch those. There are many stories from Rome of men tested by ridicule. A soldier was once mocked for his scars, and he calmly replied that each scar was proof of courage, not shame. His response turned the insult into honor because he chose the meaning of the words rather than letting the crowd decide. When we reframe insults, they lose their sting. What once sparked anger becomes an opportunity for calm, even strength. For the one who cannot be shaken by mockery is truly free. Most anger comes from the simple fact that life rarely unfolds the way we expect it to. We imagine a smooth day, but delays appear. We assume people will behave with fairness, yet they act selfishly. We hope plans will hold together, only to watch them fall apart. Anger grows in the gap between what we wanted and what reality delivered. The Stoics offered a powerful antidote: prepare for life's difficulties in advance. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings by reminding himself that he would meet with meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and rude people. He was not being pessimistic, he was being prepared. By lowering his expectations, he ensured that disappointment would not take him by surprise. This practice, called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils, is not about dwelling on misfortune. It is about rehearsing the truth that life is unpredictable and often difficult. If you expect someone to wrong you, then when they do, you will not be shocked. If you expect delays, then when the train is late, you simply nod as if the world has behaved exactly as it should. Anger weakens when expectation softens. If we demand perfection from others, from events, or from life itself, frustration is guaranteed. But if we accept imperfection as the natural order, then setbacks lose their power to disturb us. A sailor does not curse the sea for being rough, he prepares his ship to endure it. In the same way, a Stoic does not curse the world for its flaws. He prepares his mind to meet them with calm. Many people believe that anger is necessary for justice, that without it, we would let wrongdoings pass unchallenged. They argue that rage fuels courage, that outrage is the force that drives reform. The Stoics strongly disagreed. They saw anger not as a companion to justice, but as its greatest enemy. Justice, they said, requires clarity, reason, and balance. Anger clouds all three. It may stir us to act, but it rarely stirs us to act wisely. A judge consumed by fury cannot weigh evidence fairly. A leader who lashes out at betrayal may punish the innocent alongside the guilty. Anger may burn brightly, but it burns blindly. Seneca argued that justice guided by anger becomes vengeance, and vengeance only multiplies harm. True justice requires a calm mind, one that can distinguish what is fair from what simply satisfies the thirst for payback. Reason can achieve this. Rage cannot. Consider the difference between two generals. One is consumed by fury after his army suffers a loss. He rushes into battle for revenge, only to waste the lives of his men in reckless combat. Another general steadies himself, studies the situation, and waits for the right moment to strike. His calm, not his anger, wins the victory. The Stoics believed that wrongs should be corrected, but never through wrath. The goal is not to destroy the wrongdoer, but to restore what is right. Anger seeks to wound. Reason seeks to heal. And so, if we wish to serve justice, we must put aside anger and let clarity, not fury, lead the way. One of the most practical tools for dealing with anger is the ability to pause before reacting. This pause is small, sometimes just a breath, but it can change everything. Seneca advised that when you feel anger rising, do not act at once. Delay is often enough to weaken the emotion. Like a flame denied oxygen, it begins to fade. Simple techniques help. Count slowly in your mind before speaking. Step away from the moment, even if only for a few minutes. Breathe deeply, letting the body settle before the mind decides. These are not evasions. They are acts of discipline, the kind that give space for reason to return. Think of how many regrets could have been avoided if only a pause had been taken. Words hurled in anger, once spoken, cannot be recalled. Actions driven by fury leave scars long after the feeling has passed. But when we pause, we place a gate between impulse and response. we give ourselves a chance to choose a better path. The Stoics believed that dignity is preserved in silence. To respond too quickly is to let the world pull strings as if we were puppets. To hold back is to show that our mind belongs to us. The pause does not mean weakness, it means mastery. Even nature teaches this lesson. The river that rushes violently carves destruction in its path, but the calm lake reflects the sky. By learning to pause, we trade turbulence for clarity, and in that clarity, anger loses its grip. Anger often thrives on the belief that others act with deliberate malice. We tell ourselves, "They wanted to hurt me, they knew what they were doing," and our resentment deepens. The Stoics challenged this view. Marcus Aurelius wrote that people do wrong out of ignorance, not wickedness. They act according to what they believe is good, even if their judgment is flawed. When someone insults us, perhaps they think they are defending their pride. When someone cheats, perhaps they believe it brings them advantage. Their actions may be harmful, but they are guided by mistaken ideas, not by an evil nature. Once we see this, anger softens into compassion. This does not mean excusing harm or letting injustice stand, but it does mean shifting our perspective. If a child stumbles while learning to walk, do we rage at them for falling? No. We understand that they lack the knowledge and strength to do better. Adults are no different in many ways. They stumble in virtue. They fall into ignorance. They harm out of weakness. Compassion disarms anger by reminding us that we too are flawed. We have said things we regret, made choices that hurt others, acted selfishly when we should have been generous. To expect perfection in others while excusing our own failures is hypocrisy. To remember our shared weakness is wisdom. The Stoic replaces wrath with understanding. He does not say, "This person is my enemy," but rather, "This person does not yet see the truth." By responding with patience instead of rage, he not only keeps his peace, but also leaves open the possibility that the other may learn and change. Anger does not always turn outward. Sometimes it burns within, directed at ourselves. We replay mistakes in our minds, punishing ourselves long after the moment has passed. We grow angry at our failures, our lack of discipline, our missed chances. This self-directed anger can be just as destructive as rage toward others. The Stoics taught that guilt and regret are useless unless they lead to correction. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to waste time blaming himself endlessly, but to rise again and do better. The past cannot be undone. To stay trapped in self-anger is to try to fight what no longer exists. When you stumble, the task is not to curse yourself, but to stand up. If you lose your temper, acknowledge it, learn from it, and return to calm. Seneca advised that we should treat ourselves as a wise parent treats a child, correcting firmly but without cruelty. Harshness only discourages growth. Encouragement and guidance make progress possible. Think of the craftsman who ruins a piece of wood. He does not throw away his tools in frustration. He adjusts, learns, and works more carefully next time. In the same way, each mistake is material for our improvement. Anger at ourselves adds nothing, it only delays growth. The Stoic path is not perfection, but practice. If we fall 100 times, we rise 101. Each return to reason is a victory, and each moment of self-forgiveness strengthens our ability to forgive others. By softening our anger toward ourselves, we build the resilience to live with greater calm. The Stoics believe that peace of mind does not appear by chance. It is built day by day like a fortress against disturbance. Anger cannot easily breach a mind that has been trained to stand firm. This training comes through daily habits, the small practices that shape how we meet the world. Marcus Aurelius began and ended each day with reflection. In the morning, he prepared himself for whatever he might face, reminding himself that rudeness, selfishness, or betrayal could appear at any moment. By doing this, he walked into the day already armored. At night, he reviewed his actions, noting where he kept his calm and where he failed. This was not for self-condemnation, but for learning. Journaling, meditation, prayer, or simply sitting quietly with our thoughts. These are the practices that strengthen our inner defenses. Each time we pause to reflect, we reinforce reason over impulse. Each time we anticipate difficulties, we rob them of their power to shock us. A soldier does not wait until battle to sharpen his sword. He prepares in advance, knowing the fight will come. In the same way, if we want freedom from anger, we cannot wait until fury rises to begin our training. We must build our calm in quiet moments, so it is ready when storms arrive. This inner fortress is not made of stone, but of habits. It is discipline, reflection, and self-awareness. When practiced daily, they form walls so strong that insults, setbacks, and disappointments break against them like waves against rock. Even with preparation, even with philosophy in hand, anger will sometimes rise. We are human, not unshakable statues. The Stoics never promised that we could erase all emotion. They promised that we could master it. The question is not whether anger appears, but what we do when it does. The first step is acknowledgement. Pretending that anger is not there only gives it more power. Marcus Aurelius admitted his frustrations on the page, not to indulge them, but to see them clearly. To name anger is to bring it into the light, where reason can work. The next step is release. Do not cling to the story that fuels your rage. If someone wronged you, accept that it has happened and cannot be undone. If fate turned against you, accept that no anger will turn it back. Holding on to anger is like holding a burning coal and expecting it to harm the other. The longer we grip it, the more we suffer. Finally, we must learn. Each burst of anger shows us where we are still vulnerable, where expectation or pride has not been tempered by wisdom. Seneca said that anger can be a teacher if we are willing to examine it. Did we expect too much of others? Did we mistake control over what is not ours? Did we let pride rise where humility was needed? The Stoic is not defined by never feeling anger, but by never letting anger define him. He may stumble, but he rises calmer each time. What once was fire becomes, little by little, only a spark. And eventually, not even that. Imagine a life where insults fall on you like rain on stone, leaving no mark. A life where setbacks do not throw you into rage, but instead invite you to adapt calmly. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of freedom from anger. It is not a life without difficulty. It is a life where difficulty no longer rules you. Marcus Aurelius carried the weight of an empire, facing wars, plagues, and betrayal. Yet his writings reveal a mind determined to stay steady. He did not waste energy hating his enemies or resenting his fate. He chose instead to see each trial as part of nature's course, something to meet with patience and dignity. Seneca described the wise person as unshaken by misfortune, like a great tree that bends in the wind but does not break. The stronger the storm, the deeper the roots must go. In the same way, the more chaos life brings, the more reason and calmness we must cultivate. Anger cannot take hold in a mind that sees every challenge as material for growth. Living without anger is not cold indifference. It is warmth without rage, strength without harshness, justice without vengeance. It is the ability to face insult, betrayal, and hardship without losing oneself. When anger no longer commands us, we are free to live with clarity, to act with justice, and to hold peace as our constant companion. This is the Stoic vision, not to destroy anger in a single stroke, but to live so wisely, so calmly, that it fades from our lives as shadows fade before the morning sun. We began with the question of whether it is possible to live without anger, and the Stoics answer with a clear yes. Not because we can erase human emotion, but because we can reshape our response to it. Anger is not an unstoppable force. It is a judgment, a choice, and therefore it can be unlearned. The Stoics showed us that anger is nothing but temporary madness, a false impression of power that leaves us weaker. They taught us to remember what lies within our control, not the actions of others, not the twists of fortune, but the calmness of our own mind. They reminded us that insults harm only if we let them, that expectation breeds frustration, that justice needs reason and not rage. Through simple practices, reflection, preparation, compassion, and the pause before reaction, we can build an inner fortress against anger. We may stumble, but each return to calm is proof of progress. Over time, the fire of rage burns out, replaced by steady light. To live without anger is to live with clarity. It means seeing others not as enemies, but as fellow humans, often misguided, sometimes harmful, but never worth the loss of our peace. It means facing hardship without resentment, knowing that life owes us nothing, and that every challenge is an opportunity to act with virtue. The highest victory, the Stoics said, is not over others, but over ourselves. When anger no longer commands us, we discover a freedom deeper than conquest, a freedom to live each day with reason, with dignity, and with unshakable peace. If this lesson on mastering anger through Stoicism brought you clarity, stay with the journey and watch the next video where we explore how to build lasting inner peace.